Okay, well, I can get started on just welcoming everybody this afternoon. Um, Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for Grow Smart Grants, Loans, and Learning for Organic Farmers. We're really excited to have you. I'm Sammy. I'm OCO's Public Engagement and Policy Manager, and I'll be co-hosting today's session along with Iram. Iram is OCO's Research and Policy Manager. And we're, yeah, just excited to also welcome Christian Stevens from the Ontario Soil and Crop Improvement Association, who we'll have to talk to you folks in a little bit. But today's event is designed to help you navigate the many funding opportunities available to support organic farming, whether you're a producer, a researcher, a nonprofit, or somewhere in between. Oops. Awesome. Yeah. So here's our agenda. We'll walk you through how to identify the right type of funding, share some of the best practices, and we'll hear from Christian. And at the very end, we'll go through some best practices and some Q&A. All right, so let's start by talking about who funding is for. Many of us think of farmers first, and yes, operators and producers are at the heart of a lot of the funding here. But funding also supports a wide network. There's landowners and stewards, there's nonprofits, co-ops, research teams, agri-food businesses, and even employers and mentors who are just helping the next generation. Where can you find funding? There's a number of places you can find funding. You'll see programs at the federal level. You'll see them at provincial and nonprofit and private levels. Each one will come with its own focus, but together they do form a pretty rich landscape of opportunity. So you're not limited to one or the other. Usually you can pull from many buckets. Um, and yeah, you can see here the federal programs. There's the Sustainable Canadian Agricultural Partnership. There's Youth Employment and Skills Program, Canada Job Grant. And then on the provincial level, there's a number, notably the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund Corporation and the Greenbelt Foundation, and of course, loads of private and not-for-profit funding, notably some farmer-led research programs from the EFAO. So there's a number of funding structures that we want to point out. So there's grants, reimbursements, cost share, and loans. So you'll see these formats for a number of the programs that we'll list today. Grants are that one that we hear about quite a bit. They're non-repayable funding provided for a specific purpose. So often they're program-based or project-based. Um, and then cost share is kind of the format where you share the cost of a project with the funder, and it'll be in a percentage. So you'll take on 60, you'll take on 40, or 50-50, anything like that. You can also find reimbursements. So this is something where you would pay for it first. A lot of times this is for things like equipment or starting a project up. Usually you're going to make all of these, again, those purchases in advance, and then you'll get a part of those costs paid back later or all of the costs paid back later. And then the final one, this is probably one of the most common ones along with grants. It's going to be loans. This is money that you borrow with terms for repayment. So often these come with interest rates or just conditions for completion. All right, so this is a little crazy on this slide, but it's agri-funding opportunities. This is essentially what you're going to be seeing across the board. These are the different varieties and types of programs that you might find your funding associated with. So they're not just traditional grants. These can support things like training and mentorships. This is for new or transitioning farmers, or even for seasoned farmers just looking for more information. These will support leadership development, peer learning, or transitioning to organic and sustainable practices. There's also programmatic funding. So these ones offer like a long-term flexible support for projects, and they aim to address significant societal challenges. So in this case, we often find them for climate action funds or biodiversity and conservation. Climate action funds typically to reduce emissions or improve soil carbon. There's programs like the OFCAF, which support cover cropping, nitrogen management, and reduced emissions. And for biodiversity and conservation, there are programs that will support planting native species or supporting pollinators. There's funding for developing these habitats, buffer strips, species at risk initiatives. And oftentimes with these programmatic fundings, these are things you're already doing on your properties. So they're worth exploring, especially if you are committed to doing more climate-oriented farming. There's also research-based grants. So these are often on-farm studies. So there's trials and innovation. These are things like testing or collaborating with other organizations, specifically universities or research organizations. There's also organizational support. So for co-ops, nonprofits, community groups, anything like that, who's working on sector development, outreach, or mapping tools, there's support out there for you as well. And then for those rebates and incentives, these are programs again that offer money back or discounts on things. Often we'll find them for energy efficiency improvements, carbon related programs, and things like that. And finally, there's of course the emergency and relief fund. So these are things that help respond to disasters or disruptions, like drought, flooding, or market disruptions. These are often time sensitive and application based, and they're going to be a little bit more topical for you. They might not be something you're expecting. They're usually not something you're expecting. So those are ones that are going to come up kind of randomly. So it's nice to know that they exist and they're out there. So a little tip for you folks, if you are looking for funding, don't just pigeonhole yourself into one category. Many operations qualify for multiple streams. So like I said, sometimes you're already doing some of these programmatic fundings and you're looking to add research or whatever it may be, you can look to multiple. So if you're looking to trial a new practice, invest in green infrastructure, or build community capacity, there's likely a funding stream that can help you. We recommend identifying a few that align with your goals, and then we'll talk more in a moment about how to strengthen your applications. So here we're asking, which type of funding are you most interested in? You can put your answer in the Zoom chat there if you like, and we can come back to it later on. Let's see. It is now my pleasure to introduce Christian Stevens, who I mentioned before, from the Ontario Soil and Crop Improvement Association. The OSCIA is a key delivery partner for many environmental and cost share programs. Christian is a field representative with the Ontario Soil and Crop Improvement Association and has been since January 2025. He's based in Guelph and he helps producers with their environmental farm plans and with their OSCIA funding grant applications. So I'll give you a second to share your screen, Christian. Perfect. Oh, you might still be muted, Christian.
Okay, there we go. Okay,
Perfect.
perfect. Sorry about that. Yeah, I couldn't unmute myself just a minute ago. All right, good afternoon, everybody. Just get this slide going. Can you all see my screen there? The big screen?
Yep.
Perfect, thank you. All right, good afternoon, everyone. So again, my name's Christian Stevens. I'm with Ontario Soil and Crop Improvement Association. We're a grasslands producer group open to, if you're interested in joining us, that'd be great, as we do offer opportunities for networking for producers and as well as workshops and as well information for the latest best management practices and as well for cost sharing programs. You do not have to be a member of our association to apply for cost sharing funding, but we do encourage where possible. Now, because we just recently had the federal election, there's still a bit of the writ period, so my hands are a little bit tied as to what programs I can talk about, because there are some programs that are available, but I cannot talk about all of them in a public setting like this, unfortunately, just due to the rules of government funding. So, but I can talk about two programs for cost sharing today for the next bit. So first of all, I'm going to talk about the Canada-Ontario Environmental Farm Plan Program. It's been around since 1993, so perhaps you've heard of it. Perhaps some of you have completed this excellent program. It's a program that as a field representative, it is my job to deliver that workshop. Being that it's been around for over 30 years, 70% of Ontario farms have completed it. Now, I mentioned this program because it is, for most programs out there, it is a prerequisite to have a completed fourth edition of the Environmental Farm Plan certificate completed. So a little bit about it in case maybe you haven't heard about it or need a refresher. Basically, it's an opportunity for you to see your farm in a new light with an environmental angle, as we call it, because it's going to go through very detailed through your workbook, all aspects of your farm, including starting out with your water wells, your soils. Then it looks at all your management practices, your farm buildings, practices on energy, how you handle, manage your manure, storage, pesticides, petroleum, wastewater, energy efficiency, It goes through all those practices and looks at areas where we can improve your awareness of environmental strengths and identify any areas of concerns, because we're going to be rating how each of these things could, I stress that, could potentially impact the local environment of the farm. That being the air, soil, wildlife, and any water resources such as wells or streams or creeks, etc. With that, then you set realistic action plans with timelines to reduce environmental risks. And this is meant to improve sustainability, productivity, and resiliency of the farm. And again, through here, there's also an opportunity to learn how EFP can be used in conjunction with cost sharing programs to start implementing action plans to how to reduce risks. So what does the EFP process contain? To go through it, again, you get a huge workbook. It's a 2-day workshop. You go through a facilitator like myself. We go through the workbook on the first section to tell you how it's done, complete the soils, go through the wells, and then from there you get homework for the week to complete the full farm review self-assessment. Then you develop an action plan to help reduce those risks, what practices you can take within a realistic time frame, and then you submit that environmental farm plan after day 2 workshop for confidential review with amongst myself and my colleagues, workshop leaders. We don't share the information because it's your business, it's your farm, so it's kept very confidential. And then from there, you begin to start to implement your action plan at your own pace, at your own time, and there's no checkup follow-up. There's nothing like that to see how are you doing, anything like that. It's completely up to you how you want to implement your action plan, and which some fundings may help with that. So one of the programs that is open for funding right now is called the SARFIP, which is Species at Risk Incentive Program. It just opened up intake on May 22nd, so just last week, and it's going to be opening until costs have been fully allocated. All the money's ran out for it. How much money's allocated, I don't know. But obviously, if you're very interested in this, get your application in. I would recommend to get it in sooner than later. What this program is for is basically to help producers support species at risk, which some are identified there: the woodpecker, the monarch caterpillar and butterfly, the bobolink bird, and the northern map turtle, as well as other species. Cost sharing is funding available for beneficial practices that will directly or indirectly benefit these species at risk. There's a whole range of possible activities that covers a wide range of agricultural landscapes, whether it be cropland, grasslands, stream banks, shorelines, wetlands, woodlands, shorelines. So it's very comprehensive. And this project, the claim deadline for it is December 15th, 2025. So lots of time to implement the project because it has to be completed this year. And eligible invoice dates are actually back till April 1st, 2025, being a program new fiscal year. And again, has to be in by December 15th, 2025. And all applications have to be submitted online through our association portal, which I'll go through at the end of my presentation. Now, to be eligible for a SARFIP, you must be actively farming or own farmland that's actively farming. And through that, it would be having a valid farm business registration number. Or if you don't qualify for that, perhaps you have an exemption letter, religious exemption letter, or a cultural exemption letter if you're First Nations, or a municipal tax assessment setting it's an exemption through there if you have a proposed project in 25 acres of land or more. Second, as well as I mentioned, have a 4th edition environmental farm plan and an action plan that's been verified by the association field staff like myself. So there's 2 levels of funding. How much money here? Indirect benefits, 45% up to $15,000 per project. Or direct benefits, 60% cost sharing up to $20,000 per project. And for these part, what is new for this, because SARFIP has been around in the past for a few years, there's a new tool being called the Ontario Habitat Biodiversity Assessment Tool, or HBAT. And it's basically a tool developed in conjunction with Soil and Crop and other associations being delivered by the Canadian Forage and Grasslands Association. And it's a tool that which you plug in your local geographic location, figure what species habitat there, and it gives you recommendations for what species would most benefit from recommended practices in that. So we need an output of that in order to help process your application. And it must be provided. And also one stewardship opportunity must be listed in the report, which logically align with proposed project for the project to be eligible. And as well, there's also a SAR watch, species at risk watch, which is likely the project is likely supported in area, and you're interested in participating in a monitoring effort to make sure that how good your efforts are helping. Indicate interest in that, then you get additional bonus funding for that of 15%. So wide range of area of projects that I said can cover, and these cover biodiversity enhancement plans, corridors connecting wildlife, cross fencing for rotational grazing, erosion control structures along water's edge, or fencing to exclude livestock from water's edge and woodland areas, habitat structures enhancements, improved stream crossing, and some invasive plant species control, native grassland planting, native tree planting, wetland restoration, and as well any other projects that are specific to risk habitat improvement projects. So quite a wide range of projects there. Again, just a presentation just to give a bit of an overview. So if anybody's interested, I encourage you to grab your smartphone now, and because here's a couple of those QR codes. If someone wants to take a picture of it, that takes you a link to more information about the program on our website, or as well for the program guides there as well, provide more information. I'll just give a couple moments here for someone to take a picture of it. All right, and with that, I'm going to move on to our next program, which has been very popular with soil and crop, is the On-Farm Climate Action Fund. This one is funded by the federal government. And what is this program? Well, it is the On-Farm Climate Action Fund is a program that the government of Canada is partnering with Ontario farmers as they help Canada meet our national greenhouse gas emission reduction targets, help protect the environment and strengthen the competitiveness of the agriculture sector. This cost-sharing funding allows farmers to specifically support the implementation of best management practices for BMPs to reduce and to tackle climate change through reduction of greenhouse gas emissions and support increased carbon sequestration. Cost sharing funding has been available for 3 initiatives. Nitrogen management, I think Sammy mentioned this a little bit briefly. So projects that are dealing with manure management, commercial fertilizer, equipment improvements, soil testing, manure testing, things of that nature. Cover crop intake, the intake opened May 22nd. However, I at 1 o'clock, the intake just closed, I'm afraid. When I made this presentation, it was open, but I just got word literally just before this presentation started that it just closed, unfortunately. Um, and but the rotational grazing one, again, had an intake open earlier this year for pasture management, new practice, new acres, and that intake just closed. I will still go through it because for some of you may have applied or maybe interested in applying for next year, because it's likely this will be funded going forward. But when, I don't know. So again, these activities through this on-farm climate action fund are expected to help reduce greenhouse gas emissions nationally. So when do projects start? For this, all costs must be incurred, invoiced, and paid for by approved farm business registration within the eligible project start and completion dates. So those being, again, the application intake was May 22nd, but eligible project invoice date, if you have an invoice from a vendor, can be dated back as far as February, and the project can start as late as actually April 1st to backdate it a bit. But then the claim deadline for this is all due February 16th, 2026, where all expenses have to be incurred. As well, approved applications must also participate in a knowledge sharing event, or KSE, before they consider the project complete. And I'll get to KSEs in a bit here. But again, all these projects under LCAF must be implemented in 2025 and be claimed by February 16th of 2026. So how much cost share funding has been available? This was 65% up to a maximum of $30,000 per project. And a farm business registration can access a maximum of $100,000. So if you've applied for funding in the past and want to apply for again in the future, the maximum capital limit, even though this program has been open for several years, is maximum $100,000 across all categories, whether it be nitrogen management, cover cropping, or rotational grazing. And that's valid up until March 31st, 2028. So just keep in mind, again, and each project category has a maximum cost sharing amount per project. And again, the cost sharing was that $30,000. And again, this cap covers all CAF projects delivered by any organization across Canada. In Ontario, the On-Farm Climate Action Fund is delivered by my association and also by EcoCert. Perhaps some of you are familiar with that organization. Who is those will apply? Again, very similar to the SARFIP eligibility. Again, having a farm business registration number, or perhaps you qualify for an eligible religious exemption or cultural exemption, or you have that 25 acres or more assessed as farm listed on your municipal tax bill, or you have an income exemption with the farm property class tax rebate program. As well, what does this program cover for new practice, new acres? Third-party consultation fees to develop that cover cropping plan, Cost for implementing a practice that is new for the new acres being applied. Seed cost of planting, including custom planting, purchase of equipment for planting, including air seeder, broadcasting, no-till seeders, components for automation seeding. And approved projects must result in cover crop planted in the year awarded funding. So it's 2025 project that has to occur in 2025. Ineligible activities, if you're just going to plant triticale or a single species or an invasive species, cost for the cover crop will be harvested or grazed, leaving less than 6 inches of growth over winter. The cover crop does need to be maintained throughout the winter time. Cost for establishing a perennial cover, any manure or fertilizer costs or crop protection costs such as pesticides would not be covered. Consulting fees not related to the cover crop plan, any costs related to mechanical or chemical termination of cover crop, or any cost for rejuvenating existing pastures, forages, or haylands. OFCAF does have multi-year projects under this as an option, so something to keep in mind for future. They can implement a multi-year new cover crop project over a 3-year period. Program years for cover cropping again start this year, be for next year as well, from April 1st to March 15th, 2026. And then 2026 to 2027, that'll be the second year, and then 27 to 28 will be the third year. If the application is approved, the project must be implemented and claims submitted in each program year that the project costs were proposed with approved funding allocation. So some tips for application success. 1, read the program guide very clearly. I understand the program just closed, but for next year is a very good tip for all of our program guides, all of our funding applications that may not be open now, but for the future, read the program guide to understand the program requirements before you're starting your application. Talk to a field rep like myself. There's 12 of us across the province. We cover all of Ontario, so we're very much happy here to help you with it. If you have any opportunities or questions, if it would be eligible or not, we cannot complete the application for you, but we can guide you in terms of this something would be eligible or not. And of course, submit an eligible and complete application will only be considered if something's missing in the application form. Your application will be deemed incomplete and therefore not approved. So we do ask yes, you complete the application form for the project category applying to, include the farm business ration number information, or if you are exempted, and any documentation required with applications such as digital site maps or perhaps a crop plan if that's part of your application. Decisions, how are they distributed to the producers? As we get so many applications, as it has been a very popular program, we get hundreds of applications. It does take some time for our staff to process them. I don't, it's other people in our Guelph staff who do this. So it does take a few weeks for them to process it. So the decisions then would be communicated by email, or if no email is provided, then be obviously by Canada Post. If an application is approved for cost sharing, the approval letter will confirm what is eligible, when can it start, when the claim submission deadline is, and as well when what documentation must be provided, instructions on how to participate in that eligible knowledge sharing event, which I'll get to in a minute, and any other links and how to submit the claim information. The knowledge sharing event, this is something that is important for specific just for the ONCAF program. Basically, it's an opportunity to support the learning adoption of BMPs or beneficial management practices specific to addressing climate change. So perhaps it would be such as carbon sequestration or how to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. They're both a great learning opportunity and network opportunity where farmers can benefit from seeing the latest research, hearing firsthand from other farmers, industry experts, or gaining access to information networks and resources. You do have to attend an approved knowledge sharing event for each project. So if you submit 3 projects and they get approved, you have to attend 3 KSE events. And they do take registration for these in order to get approved for that or acknowledged. Example could be such as a webinar, a workshop, a conference, in-person or virtual event. Must be through my association or through another organization, a partner who has reached out to us to say, can this be approved or not? And like I said, must attend 1 KSE for each project. A list of these can be found on our website, ontariosoilcrop.org. Just look for KSEs under ONCAF on the programs tab. They're starting to become more, but obviously with fieldwork right now, there's not as many, but there will be quite a few during the summer months and the fall. The submitting a claim, again, an approved project must be complete, fully paid for, and eligible KSE complete before claim is submitted. Each Claim must be supported by invoice, proofs of payment in the name of applicant, farm, business. Proof of payment can be the following: a canceled check, electronic image processed check, statement from the banking institute showing the banking details, credit card or debit card receipts, clearly identifying the amount and to whom the payment was made. We strongly, strongly discourage cash payments, as those may not meet the requirements for payment, proof of payment. Known eligible costs for arm's length. To be eligible, all costs and goods and services for this project must be purchased from an entity that is at least an arm's length from applicant farm business. So an entity is considered arm's length if they're not related, not affiliated persons, or otherwise controlled by another member. So if, for instance, if you're in partnership with your parents or in-laws through blood or marriage, or business owned by the same individuals, they're not considered an arm's length. Just keep that in mind. So where to find more information on how to apply. Our On-Farm Climate Action Fund program guide, as well as our other program guides, is programs that some of them I can't speak right now, even though they're posted. It is linked on our program guides.ontariosoilcrop.org. It is also linked to our website. And again, for the program guide, I strongly encourage you to read it all for all of our programs when they come available, because that'll tell you what's eligible to apply, who is eligible, how much is cost sharing funding is available, and what documentation is needed, how to submit the application, and other information. Through this, this is a screenshot of our website here, just showing the program guide's website. Here you can filter by what cost sharing program you're interested in. And then from here, it'll give you a link of what is available, give you status of what's becoming available, and when they, if they're open or not, or about to become open, something to check out. As well, there's opportunity also to apply now under the program guides. You just click up there to submit your application, to start the application. But the applications are only accepted to the application intake, and application forms are not available prior to the intake opening. So to be ready to complete an application, ensure the intake opens, you have, again, proper documentation, farm business registration for site sketches, and other costs estimated for your project. And in order to apply, the easiest way to complete an application is to use our portal at osicportal.org. Applications are submitted through here. If you don't have an application, want to get or don't have an account, through portal, you just create an account right here. You just enter your name, email, name, and password, and then they'll create the account. It just takes a couple of minutes. There's no cost to applying for it. And once you have that, then you upload your farm information and check on when grants become available. So again, I encourage you, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I think there might be a Q&A later on during the session here to help you answer questions. But yes, we have our field reps across the province, so depending where you're from. A list of these is available on our website, so feel free to reach out to any one of us. We'd be happy to help you. And again, lastly, if you want to stay up to date on program announcements, as some will become available later on, rather than checking your website constantly, I do encourage you to subscribe to our program's email list, and just on our opportunities, you subscribe to that email. It's the only email you'll get is saying this program is becoming available, rather than having to check it on a daily or weekly basis. I encourage you to do that. Lastly, if you want to stay connected with us, we're on Instagram, X or Twitter, Facebook, and other social media platforms. So thank you very much for the invitation, and look forward to answering any questions. Thank you, Sammy.
Awesome. I'm going to hand it over to Iram. She has a few things to say about takeaways. Oh, and there she is. Perfect.
Give me 1 second while I set up here.
And just a reminder, we'll do a Q&A right at the end. So we'll collect these questions in the chat and we can address them all after Iram's done.
Yes, all right. Well, thank you to Christian. Very helpful to get that thorough breakdown of the grants. And just to flag that we are recording the session. The slides will be sent to you afterwards, along with the recording. We'll upload them to our website, and maybe you can also drop the slides in the chat so you have them. And towards the end, there's like a list of some funding that's active right now. So the slides can certainly be helpful in that way. So yes, now I'll just kind of wrap us up at the end here with some tips for applying to grants. So basically, just to kind of recap some of the things that we've already touched on, identifying the right grant is very important because that really increases your odds of getting that grant if you are really matching the theme. It's maybe the geography or the focus, and it helps you. Sorry, just admitting someone here. Yeah, so research thoroughly to find the grants that actually match your project's goals, its scale, and the timeline. You want to align yourself with the grant objectives. So make sure you read those guidelines and use the same sort of language in your proposal that aligns with the funder's mission. So you can really frame your project as relevant. You want to engage with the funder. That's part of the reason for us having a representative here now. They have loads of information on what programs would be right for you, as well as how to really strengthen your application to increase your odds. So if possible, try and meet with them or communicate with them early on. And especially for sort of cost sharing or price matching programs, you want to make sure you're really clear on the expectations of what you're expected to contribute, what kinds of expenses would be eligible. When you're actually making up your project, your proposal, you want to highlight the data piece. I think that is really strengthens an application. So using really clear, measurable outcomes, having some kind of baseline data or case studies or projections, and also make sure you answer every single question, which can sometimes be missed in a really long application, but you want to address all of the sort of funders' requirements because they're looking to really align with their goals. So they want to see how your project helps them achieve their goals. You want to have a strong plan, so a clear step-by-step work plan that has these sort of defined roles, a realistic timeline, really clear milestones. And you want to make sure your budget is feasible. You want to justify each item on your budget in relation to those project goals. And it should be pretty transparent and easy to follow. Are you planning to apply for any programs this year? Put your answer in the chat if you would like. And I'm going to leave that there and also move on to our sort of Q&A slide. I'm also seeing some in the chat. If we don't have the answer for you now, we can certainly do some research and get back to you as well. We're not always experts on these things, but we are a resource to you. So we're here to help in the ways that we can. Does anyone have any questions, especially for OSCIA rep here? This would be a good time for that. Seeing one, are there any funding opportunities specific to accessible agriculture for disabled persons? There are some that I've seen. I can think of, I think there's an agri-diversity grant. So I think we can probably pull some of those and get back to you. Maybe we can grab your email and we can send you a follow-up.
I grabbed the email, Ira.
Oh, nice. Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, the agri-diversity program is the one that came to mind for me as well. It's specifically supporting underrepresented groups, so it's definitely a viable place to start.
Okay. If there are no others at this time, feel free to drop them in the chat. And oh yes, are we interested in that? Okay. Okay, we can share that more widely then. And then, okay, I will move on to the next slide. So key takeaways, I'll just kind of be succinct on this one, but choosing the right fit, aligning your goals with the funder's goals, use multiple funding sources. So we've pulled together a bunch of different options here for active programs. But yeah, it's not just governments, there's nonprofits, there's conservation authorities, and a lot of this funding, as Christian mentioned, even if the intake is closed now, it might be open next year. So starting early and managing those deadlines is always a good idea. Gives yourself time to really put together a strong proposal, connect with the program. And yeah, it's not just money. A lot of these funding programs will be mentorship, training, business to business opportunities, which can be just as, if not more valuable than direct funding. And they can also help you get more grants. Once you've gotten some grants, it's easier to get more. Okay. So these are some programs that are active now. And these are included in the slides for you as well.
Yeah, I can go over them a little bit, Iram.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah, so we have a nice wide variety of funding. You guys may have already seen this if you're on our mailing list. We did send out a long list of available funding last week. Some of it has changed, some of it is closed, including the one that Christian had mentioned. But some notable ones. If you're looking for even just access to training resources, the Farm Resilience Mentorship is a free mentorship. It's kind of like personalized coaching for climate smart agriculture, but it's backed by science and they're really hands-on with the farmers for climate solutions there. The CALA program is a new one to us. It's a government-backed loan program, and it's designed to help farmers and agricultural cooperatives buy and improve land, purchase new equipment, construct and repair farms, and things like that. So that's a nice, reliable one. Anyone can qualify from producers to co-ops, especially if they're involved in processing, marketing, or distributing any farm products. But yeah, it's a very affordable program, usually lower interest rates depending on which lender you're going with. Yeah, and then there's also the financial dis difficulty support. That one, I believe, came out with some of the changes in tariffs and trade. And that one will help with financial analysis. So they'll take a look at your business and see where there's room for improvement. And that will help you just kind of fund those resources and getting that analysis done. And then just to note super quickly, there are programs. This is just an example of the Lower Thames Valley. This one is a very regionally specific funding program. There are ones that are based in your municipality, so take a look there. It's hard with Ontario, it's so broad, and we have these provincial programs, but your local communities often have conservation efforts and programs that are meant to focus on the ecosystems that are being dealt with. And I think that's it for those ones. Let me see the next ones. Hiram, if you could go to the next slide. Yeah, and I really just want to note some of these, specifically the labor force management strategies. These are for specifically, um, I guess it's kind of clear in the name, the management strategy. So it'll give funding for you to attract more employees and to retain employees. So that's things like funding programs and of the like. And the same thing with the youth employment funding from Eco Canada. This is a great way to receive wage subsidies if you need some help and also to allow youth to enter the field of agriculture where it can otherwise be inaccessible. Those are just like ones that I think are particularly notable, especially going into the summer, you might need a hand on the farm. But yeah, there's no shortage of support out there. If any of these programs sound like a fit, we can help you in any way. Just again, leave your questions in the chat or send us an email at, I think we put it in the last slide there, for yeah, we can come, you can either reach out to us at membership or communications is where you can reach me at. It's communications@organiccouncil.ca. Anytime, we're happy to answer your questions. And if it takes us a minute to respond, we're always just looking in for it for you. And yeah, if you could provide some feedback as well at this time, we would love to know what you think about the webinar, what you'd like to see from us. We're looking to do regular events with you folks, so making sure that we're all on the same page with what we're interested in and what you guys need help with. And as we're kind of wrapping up, feel free to leave some questions, but I'm going to go over a few things that OCO is working on. As you can see, we are a member-based organization, so it's through support from members that we're able to offer events like this. And you can explore membership options or you can just enjoy the event. But we do have some stuff coming up. We have a Southbrook Vineyards tour day, so there'll be wine, there'll be charcuterie, all that stuff. So keep an eye out on our e-news and our e-communications in general. We will also be having several events throughout the summer to get out on the farm and to get out in the sunshine. We also have started a new project where we're interviewing for a podcast. So if you are interested in either having OCO on site to explore what you're working on or to have a conversation, feel free to reach out. We're happy to talk to anybody who's involved with organic or passionate about regenerative. There's absolutely no limit. Just feel free to reach out. And finally, we're very happy to welcome one of our new staff members, Bryn, who you may hear a phone call from in the coming weeks. She's calling for our data portal project, and she's here to help strengthen the organic value chain, checking in to see what's necessary from you guys, what on the ground, what needs to be changed, and also getting some more information up to date so that we can bring people to you as well. So yeah, any questions, feel free to throw them in there. And that's it from us, I think.
Sammy, if it's okay if I just
Absolutely.
say a couple of words. So I'm the executive director here at the Organic Council, and thank you so much, Aram and Sammy, for putting that together. There was a lot that they had to look at in terms of what grants and funding options and loans are available. And so I'm seeing in the chat, there's some that are coming in. Yeah, the Fair Finance Fund is a great one. So there's lots of other options out there, and please just share them with us. There's just so much out there. If you're finding that funding is difficult to get, Sarah, I saw your message come in about being an urban farmer and not having enough funding sources. OSEA does actually often help out with small farms. I know a lot of those things he talked about have closed, but they come back on. And so for myself, I live a lot of my life in the grant world, and I have for several years. And so if I know that in the past a grant has become available on a certain date, I just actually put it on my calendar. And so, for example, Eco Canada has like very specific dates for student grants. So I know to go check their website on those dates. Oftentimes, if they're federal grants, they will be affected by some of this election stuff that we had happening this last year. So there will sometimes be some pauses, but in general, just keeping organized when you go on to those websites, because the funding programs tend to renew year after year. And so if you've missed the opening this year, you can look next year. And an example is, for example, the AFC has 3 huge grants that they're doing right now: agri marketing, agra, a whole bunch of different ones. There's 3 of them, and that application ends on Friday if you look on their site. But if you read deeper, it actually says you can continue to apply as long as funding is still available. That unfortunately will often work in the reverse as well. So I've actually done export grants through CanX, and they're like, the deadline is this date, and we've had our applications finished a week before we go put it in, and it's actually closed because all the funding is gone. So just be really careful with those dates, recognizing that sometimes funding can all disappear. So don't take your time if you don't. But if you've missed a deadline, sometimes it's worth reaching out. The other piece that I would recommend is any grant organization has people just like Christian, who are just people hanging out and happy to help. And so, instead of just like crossing your fingers and hoping that that's the grant that they want to see, you know, calling them up, having an online meeting and saying, these are what we're thinking of. Is that fundable, or is there something else that would be? So for example, we were looking at doing something with climate for climate solution, what
Farmers
farmers
for
for
Climate
climate
Solutions.
solutions.
Yeah.
Thank you. Aaron did this with me, and we're like, oh, we could do this. There's some really neat ideas. And then we had a conversation, and they were just like, no, that's not going to work because it doesn't do what we want to actually accomplish with this. And so they saved us a bunch of time for going through that grant application. And so, engaging in that dialogue really early is helpful. The other thing is stacking of grants. So you'll notice that some of these are like a 50-50 where they want you to put 50 in, but sometimes you can use that 50 from another grant. So it doesn't necessarily have to be out of your own pocket in terms of matching funds. Some don't like you stacking with certain ones, and that means where you have multiple, and some are fine with it. So it's a little bit of I think of it like a board game of like figuring out which ones will work with which ones and reading the fine print. But if you kind of get it all figured out and you ask, I will often ask, is it okay if I use this funding mechanism along with this funding mechanism? Then that's also helpful too. So opening up that dialogue, sitting down to write those grants, sometimes can feel a little overwhelming. Chat GPT, not great for the environment, but it is efficient sometimes if you want to figure out how to say things and you're just really not sure. And then going to the websites and looking at what the mandates are for each of these groups and what they're trying to accomplish. So for example, the AFC just had the Prime Minister's mandates come down. They're looking at AI. They're looking at some very particular stuff on his mandates. We don't have the ag mandates yet. And so you'll really want to see if you align with that, some of your ideas, or if you can find wording that will tell the story of what you're doing to match with what they're doing. And I would actually just be interested and I know I'm long-winded here, so this is why I had them do it, but I would also be interested in hearing back. A grant that maybe we could apply for, OCO, would be to have people to help all of our members that we're representing apply for grants, right? If we had somebody who actually helped with that process and acted as a resource for both federal and provincial grants and loan programs through different creditors and other resources. So if that's something that you would like, feel free to throw it in the chat or send it on to our feedback pool. So that's my little bit that I'm just going to say, and then I see there's other questions and stuff coming in here, so I will let you guys take away the question section.
Yeah, so I was just looking, there was a question from Patrick. Are there any grants available for an organic operation that's not a farm but is classified as a producer? And I did check, and the Sustainable Canadian Agricultural Partnership does offer funding for Ontario-based agri-food businesses. So it includes producers. You don't have to be a specific farm. That goes from pretty much the entire organic value chain. And there's a total funding pool of 16.5 million. I believe it's the same format where it's a pool and it'll run out when it runs out. Um, and that one can enhance your competitiveness, your productivity and sustainability of the sector and also your business as well. Um, and then I have another question that says, is there any opportunity for someone just starting and still looking for farmland? I believe that's where the CALA loan would come in. I did see on that one that there was an opportunity to receive funding specifically for folks entering into agriculture seeking land. That's the first one that I would look at, but if you drop your email in a direct message to me, I can gather some resources and send them your way. I think that might. Oh, perfect. And Iram did say that NFUO has some good resources as well. NFUO and EFAO are fantastic as well for the new farmer resources. They're great partners of ours. Awesome. Any last minute questions? Oh, perfect. Thank you.
It looks like there's some actual some really nice recommendations in the chat there of other grant options as well.
Yeah, I'm taking note of all of them, and I'll make sure that everyone who's attended today has access to all of these. Hmm.
There's a question in the chat. We are applying for organic certification. Is there any funding for this? And I do not believe that there currently is any funding available for certification, but it's worth, looking at different certification organizations because they actually do have different costs depending on which company you decide to go with and what's a good fit for you. And the other thing, I don't know if you've already applied and you're like are in that process already or not, but it is definitely worth shopping around and again engaging in conversations with the different companies that do provide certification to see what that overall cost is. I will say that in general, the cost for organic certification is not actually very high. And it's kind of a misnomer about that it's really expensive, but sometimes the transitioning your farm to organic itself, so some of those practices do have an associated cost. And so, for example, when Christian was talking earlier about the OSIA grants of cover crops, et cetera. Those would be things that would help with that transition over to organic, or even where you're looking at species protection, that can also help and play, both for certification that you need to do, but also falling under those environmental aspects. So sometimes figuring out ways that grants can cover your transitioning is fantastic, but there are no grants as of now that are specifically to pay for the fees associated with organic certification.
The
Yeah,
chats
that's
won't be,
great. Thank you.
no problem. The chats in the recording will not be added, but what will happen is when we read it out loud, you'll have the answer as well. And I have kept note of them, so I'll send out an email with all of the answers and maybe an expansion on all of the answers as well. Awesome. Any last minute questions before we wrap up today? Awesome. Well, I just want to thank everyone for attending. Thank you, Christian, for joining us, Erica, Iram, and once again, everybody for being here. Feel free to give us some feedback with the QR code on the screen. And yeah, send us an email. I'll send you all an email so you'll know where to find me. And yeah, any questions, any support we can give you, we're happy to give it.
Wait, one more thing, because I always have to plug this at the end. We are a member-based organization, and really our membership is a huge part of why we can keep offering these things. So we have to write grants just like you, but we also generate revenue through memberships. And we saw that actually a bunch of supporter memberships came in along with this talk. So thank you so much. A lot of farmers who didn't realize that they weren't members maybe came in, and that those memberships are there. And there are some benefits with membership as well. Do you mind, Sammy, actually maybe in the chat here, and then also we'll put it up, but an actual link to the memberships as well. They did come through in your email, and you can go on to our website, organiccouncil.ca, but that's our way that we continue to be funded here at OGO.
And there are multiple categories as well. So if you need any guidance figuring out where your business might fit, we're happy to help you with that as well. Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks,
Thank
Christian.
you.
Bye, everyone.